Sup flappers. So I was just briefing chat over here. This way or this way, one of these ways. I was just briefing chat here. We're doing a tier list, and now this tier list is gonna be for the newer player base, because I've been receiving a lot of DMs. I've gotten people in comments asking like, hey, I'm newer to the game, who should I be investing in? Is there a banner I should be waiting for? And there's a ton of questions, and people are also attacking some of these players, like, play who you want, play who you like. But at the end of the day, if it were that easy, none of these tier lists would have ever gotten any traction to begin with. There's a group of players who want to make it feel that the investment they're putting into this game, the characters they're leveling up, are good characters, or characters that has longevity in the game, or are already very well known to be powerful units. Nobody wants to be building up units that they know are going to be completely obsolete in a couple months. So I'm here making a tier list with all Genshin characters up until patch 1.6. You're going to see a lot of faces that are not released yet, and yes, we were not going to talk about this. I just found this on Tier List Maker. I didn't make this, but we're going to skip over all characters that are not currently released. I am a player who's been playing this game since September 28th, 2020. So day one since the game released, I currently own every single character in the game. I've played every single character in the game. So why am I telling you this? It's just to let you know I am credible. I know what I'm talking about. I've actually made guide videos for, I would say, 80% to 85% of all the characters in the game. I tested them. I have C6 almost all of my 4 stars except for some of the free-to-plays. So I know what I'm talking about. I will try my best to include mobile players into this tier list, meaning that I don't want to just talk about this from a PC player perspective, because I think that is quite biased and it's not going to be as accurate. So with all that said, we have chat here. I'm sure we're gonna butt heads at some point, but that's just part of the reason I'm doing this on a live stream. So I have all these people here who can hold me to a certain standard, and I'm not just talking out of my ass, okay? I'm gonna give you guys quick explanations as to why I think certain characters belong in certain places. Okay, let's just start with a character we are all forced to play. Well, some more happily than others. That is the main MC. So I'm gonna start us off right now on the right foot, and I think the main MC is A tier. So if you disagree with this, I would argue that the main MC eventually will become stronger and stronger and better as the game gets further. You get him or her to C6 pretty much free. You just have to play the game, and eventually they will be of every single element as well. And currently the Geo MC actually has an abundance of usage and combos that are available, and makes the game extremely versatile and fun. As the games develop, this character will likely still stay within meta just because of being able to change into different elements as different regions are released. So I do think that the MC is a solid A tier unit. Some people might knock them down to the B tier, but currently from what I've seen, it's just really good, really solid, and it's free. You get free C6. What's not to love? Moving on to Albedo. Albedo is a slightly weird unit, and a lot of people actually don't have Albedo. But I do think Albedo, in the end of the day, is also an A tier unit. He is a support DPS character through and through. He just gets overshadowed by so many other powerful support units. So at the end of the day, he falls into this one role, support DPS, but he does it really well. And with crystallizing a reaction, you actually bring quite a bit of hybrid defense and offense into the team. However, I would say he's really high B tier and low A tier. Albedo, especially for mobile players, is a no-brainer. This guy, you just literally drop his elemental skill and you switch to your main DPS and you smack booty cheeks. However, definitely is not a top tier unit, and I really wouldn't suggest you saving a lot of Primogen to hunt him on his rerun banners. Let's move on to Amber. I didn't know we were gonna jump so fast into this controversial unit, but if we're realistically speaking, okay? She's a D tier unit, okay? It's no secret because, first of all, she's a bow character. I know a lot of mobile players are okay with, you know, aiming and stuff like that, but a lot of mobile players really don't like that. And her being a bow character and her being completely undertuned, it just makes your life a lot more difficult than it has to be. I'm gonna be honest, did I give her a fair chance and I tried her out? I didn't level her past the level 60, I believe, Ascension 4 to get her full kit, and I already noticed a huge gap in power even with other 4-star characters. And let me tell you, these characters don't have raid ups on banners. miHoYo don't put them on banner raid ups. So guess what? If you want to really play her at full potential C6, chances are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 ain't gonna even cut it. So it's one thing to be underpowered due to your kit and design. It's another thing to not even be able to hit your full power. So that's why Amber is sitting in D tier. I think it's fair. I think very few people are going to disagree with this. Let's move on. Barbara, I've played with her before. I'm sure a lot of people have played with her before. Is she good? I mean, she's okay. Is she bad? I wouldn't say really she's bad, all right? But with the current rosters of characters, Barbara is just, she doesn't really stack up. She doesn't stack up with a lot of these other available units in what they do. miHoYo doesn't like healing as much as they like buffing. If the enemies dies quicker, it means you don't have to heal as much. So there's really not an emphasis on healer. I'm talking about this as a current meta situation in patch 1.6. Healers do suffer a bit if all they do is healing. Let us move on to Beidou. She can be a low S tier all the way to a high B tier, depending on how good you are with this character. Listen, chat, don't flame yet. I'm telling you right now, I've seen some Beidou players who puts my Hu Tao's DPS to shame. But I've also seen some Beidou players who literally makes her look like a glorified Meta churl. Her mechanics is counter. It's kind of like Meliodas. You have to find the timing, and there are different timings to her counter. It's a high ceiling character. So with that being said, I'm gonna drop her in A tier because that's the middle. Her counter mechanic is one of the most unique character mechanics currently available in Genshin Impact, and the merits of being good at doing what she does is very rewarding. She might be high A tier. Actually, let's move this around a little bit like this. All right, this is the current tier list when it comes to performance and value. Bennett. If you don't know what Bennett does, Bennett is a healer, but he's also a buffer, okay? So this is where we talk about the conversation when I was talking about Barbara being just a pure healer. Bennett not only heals you, he also buffs your damage. I struggle to say a single team that cannot benefit from Bennett's existence. He can fill 4 roles as well if you really want to. He can be a main DPS. He can be a quick swap support DPS. He definitely can be a healer, which is his most popular position. And of course, he can be just a pure on support. So Bennett, S tier unit. Right now, currently, Bennett is available on banner, and I know a lot of people are going for him. So if you're a newer player currently playing the game, you don't have Bennett, pull for him on this banner. If you end up getting Kazuha, don't fret. We'll talk about Kazuha later, all right? So Childe suffers from a condition called partial on-field syndrome, meaning you want him to be constantly on field, but it's just not what he does. He is a great hydro applicator, one of the best, if not the best hydro applicator currently available in the game. I will put him above Albedo just because Childe does have that vaporize. He has great freeze combo synergies as well, but you have to understand how he works. So if you're a newer player, I don't really suggest you picking up Childe, because when it comes to synergy, he doesn't have as many synergies as you would think he does. Unlike Bennett, who literally has all the synergy in the game, Childe, not so much, all right? A solid unit, if you do have him, he's gonna serve you well, especially if you pair him with a couple of the other units I will be talking about later, all right? Chongyun, okay, he used to be a top premier cryo option, but now with characters like Ganyu, we got characters like Eula, and we're about to get new cryo characters as well. We even have Rosaria. It just feels like his kit feels more chunky, and his elemental skill limits the amount of synergy he can actually have with certain characters. But that being said, Chongyun just being cryo is still a solid unit for beginners players. If you do have him, he's gonna be great to pair with certain units such as Diluc. We're about to get the Diluc, so I think he's a B tier. I don't know, if miHoYo decided to make some changes or change some certain characters, I think Chongyun should be on that list. Diluc, a very strong unit, although currently with the newer pyro characters that miHoYo has released, Diluc has fallen slightly down the tier list when it comes to DPS potential. However, we are talking single-digit seconds comparatively to other DPS options. I think Diluc has been dethroned from the S tier as newer characters are about to get released as well in the next patch. He's still really solid. If you have Diluc, trust me, he'll be enough to carry you through everything currently available in the game. But he is no longer an S tier unit. I think he is a high A tier unit, definitely up there. One of the best A tier units currently in the game, still one of the best DPS options in the game, just not cressing into that S tier anymore. Now, Diona. Diona has single-handedly solved so many issues for team composition and combos. Realistically speaking, Diona requires some constellations to get rolling, but the things she can open up to certain teams, I see chat spamming S, and I do think so. I think she is like low S tier. The shield, it's too good, right? And the synergies are just all there. Cryo units are some of the best units currently in the game. She is an S tier unit. She has solved so many problems for a lot of my budget Abyss teams, and she pretty much is the highlight in almost all of the teams she's in. If you do have a chance, definitely snag her up. If you have Bennett and if you have Diona, you're gonna have almost no problems through any Abyss iterations, okay? Now, we got Eula, one of the newer characters. I do think that Eula is currently our premier burst main DPS unit. Now, the question is she better than Diluc? I'm gonna say no. I put her below Diluc, but above Childe. She is a high A tier unit, solid DPS unit. Should you chase her for her banner reruns? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there are gonna be some better options available for you to chase. So, with that said, let us just move on. I just want to say Eula's a great character, solid, well-balanced, good design, high A tier. Okay, now we have Fischl. Fischl is another one of those characters which I have been advocating for people to play her for a very long time. Of course, she's not underrated by any means. She's very solid. Fischl sits above Albedo, maybe even above Childe, just because of her application. Fischl's application is no joke. She can be main DPS, she can be support DPS, and she can be a pure support, electro applicator support. Just because of the amount of roles she can fit into and how easy it is to get her constellations, I do think she sits also in high A tier, even better than Childe. This is not a DPS tier list, as you can see. We got 2 4-stars support units up in the S tier. This is really practicality, how and which character you can pull to beef up your team for more longevity in this game. Fischl, solid, high A tier. Okay, next you... I'm kidding. I'll explain. Ganyu is definitely an S tier unit. People oftentimes forget she can have 100% burst uptime. How broken is that? Do you guys see how big and how effective her burst skill is? That burst skill, the ice shower, can have 100% uptime. If you can save up for a unit, save up for Ganyu, because main DPS will get power crept. But because Ganyu fits support DPS and support just as well as her being in the main DPS, I find it very difficult to ever phase Ganyu out of the meta. Too good. Best cryo applicator in-game, best current DPS in-game, best constellations in-game. What more do you want from a unit? What more do you want from a unit? She is superb. Hu Tao. Okay, I play Hu Tao a lot. She's actually one of my main characters. I put in hours into Hu Tao, and I do think that currently Hu Tao sits below Ganyu just because I think Ganyu fits 3 roles. I think I'm emphasizing this enough, am I not? Top tier DPS character. If you're pulling for Hu Tao, you're pulling for a DPS character through and through, okay? Just understand that. That's all she does. She's a DPS. There's nothing else she does. Really solid. I think her pairings with Childe is one of the best and most satisfying things I like to play in the game. What more can I say? I think that's all I need to say for Hu Tao. Jean. I really just want to throw her in D tier and move on because I hate this character so much. She has spoofed me on every single one of the banners that I wanted. But I'm gonna be real with you guys. Jean is a solid character. Her cleanse it's so good. There are certain mechanics to her kit, especially with her elemental skill, where she pulls units in and she can launch them upwards, and when they fall back down, they take percentage HP fall damage. I'll put her at a high A tier. I think she is sitting above Eula. It's better for you to pick up a Jean than for you to pick up a Eula, simply because there are so many DPS options, and you're going to start to see, with a few exceptions to this tier list, that a lot of support units are going to be higher up on the tier list, just because Genshin Impact is a game where you don't only rely on one unit. All right, you need a full team to make the best out of your units. So Jean sits at a high A. Ah yes, Kaeya. I think Kaeya actually is an A tier unit. I'll put him above Traveler. He also suffers from the fact that you're never going to get him to Constellation 6 unless you literally spend tens of thousands of dollars on this game. He is mostly a main DPS and sometimes a support DPS as well. He has great cryo application with his burst skill, which sets you up for a lot of great combos and availability, freeze teams, melt teams. Kaeya has a great overall kit, but let me tell you, a lot of people are sleeping on Kaeya. Get your mind out of the gutter. Not like that, but they're sleeping on how good he is. Okay, so if you are struggling with the main DPS currently as a newer player or a free-to-play player, you don't have any of these premier DPS, but you do have Kaeya, give him a chance. He's good. He's really good. All right, Kazuha. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. He can be a main DPS. He can be a support DPS. He can be a support. He already fits 3 roles in this category. He's not S tier for sure. Kazuha sits in a high A tier. I do think he's better than Diluc, better than all of these characters that currently are in A tier, but in the end, I do think that he will suffer greatly just because he doesn't do that one thing really well. You know what I mean? He does a bit of everything, but of course, if you're doing a bit of everything, Mihoyo is going to make sure that you're not the best at any of them. Still really good character, but maybe not the top priority. Keqing. I think low to mid A tier is as high as she's gonna get. Let's be honest here. Childe is a character that pairs really well with like 3 units. Okay, maybe 5. But Keqing, she has 2 different builds. If you have Keqing, you can farm different domains. You can build her physical DPS, which means she has options to different weapons as well. So it's just easier to build Keqing. She's pretty cheap to build, very easy to play. I would say she has a very entry level difficulty to playing her, and she has a relatively mid to higher skill ceiling to mastering her certain combos and rotations for highest DPS. She does suffer from the fact that she's Electro, and also physical DPS currently in the game is kind of weak as well, so she doesn't get really close to the top of the A tier. Her DPS is just not there. Okay, Klee, when played in her peak potential, can start to crest into the low S tier when it comes to DPS, all right? If you're fully utilizing every aspect of her kit, like you're a dedicated Klee main that spends, 20 minutes every day before you even start playing the game to practice Klee mechanics, yes, she can be a low S tier. But for the vast majority of people, she's gonna be sitting really close to mid A tier, because you're not going to utilize that aspect of her kit. You're not going to be mastering all her mechanics. She's very difficult to master, very easy to play. DPS wise, yes, she is higher than Diluc, so we're going to put her towards the high A tier above Diluc. She has good DPS. It's just she's a pain to play for some people. That's all I'm going to say for her. Should you be chasing her? I don't think so. If you're waiting for a banner rerun, wait for a Hu Tao for a Pyro DPS, or wait for Ganyu, right? Klee really isn't something that you want to be actively hunting after. Lisa is SSS tier in another tier list, a plus 18 tier list, but in this tier list went for her utility and her playstyle, a C tier, okay? I think she's lower than Barbara. All right, she's clunky. Her elemental skill feels weird. She doesn't even have stutter resistance when she's doing her elemental skill, so you can get knocked around. I don't know what more I can say. Lisa is a free unit. If you have her, you can use her. If you don't really have anyone else, if you have a single copy of Fischl, just use Fischl. That's all I'm gonna say. Mona, my man, my girl. I think she sits above Keqing when it comes to utility and how she serves your team. She struggles to make it any higher on the list just because you don't really need what she offers. A lot of the times, you can maybe spend the time for the setup that it takes to set up her burst skill into better synergies for your team to do maybe not as big of a damage number, but you're still going to get that DPS anyways. Yes, she works well in a couple freeze teams, but currently freeze teams are kind of like iffy. It's meta wise, it's okay. I think it's like mid-tier meta-wise, but realistically speaking, you don't really need to hunt for Mona. If you get her, congratulations. There's a lot of people who want her, but if you don't have her, you're not going to be losing sleep over not having her, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? Ningguang, below Fischl, I would say. A lot of DPS currently available in this game. Most of them are kind of like sustained, high-octane DPS, but Ningguang really is one of the first few burst DPS units we had in the game. She is easy to play for mobile players. She is Geo, so she can actually mine ores very easily. Actually, I didn't really talk about this a lot. If you have Ningguang in your team in the open world, she can mine ores very easily. And yeah, overall, I just think she's really good. Has good constellations as well, and has been known to make a couple banner appearances. Ningguang probably is going to be making a banner appearance next month. To be honest, we haven't seen her for a while now. So yeah. Noelle, I want to say high C or low B tier. Yes, she fulfills more than one role if we're strictly speaking her utility functions, but man, her constellations is kind of weird, and the demand for higher constellation is really there for Noelle if you really want to see high potential, like for the investment that you're about to put into this character, if you want to play this character. You know what, I'm going to drop her in low B tier just because I'm looking at the C tier and I don't think she belongs in C tier just because of some of the functions she has. She's a shielder. She offers great protection for your team if you're struggling with shielding characters. Like you don't have Diona, of course you don't have Zhongli. You don't have, who else is a shielder? You don't even have a Beidou. Yeah, her shield works really well. Yeah, let's just keep her in B tier. If you can get her to Constellation 6, she can rock your world, pun intended. So yeah, Qiqi I think is probably one of the lower A tier units. I think the amount of healing she gives for a team is just so excessive to the point where it's wasteful. I phased her out of a lot of my teams. I started to use Diona over Qiqi just because while Diona heals less than Qiqi, her heals are still enough to get you through, but she also comes with a shield, and Qiqi just does too much healing. Okay, way too much. So I think low A tier. Honestly, I wouldn't prioritize her. She's currently probably the worst unit you can pull when you're losing 50-50. That's all I'm gonna say. If you get Qiqi and lose your 50-50 to Qiqi, that's a big rip. Razor, solid unit, physical DPS. Meta-wise, he's okay. Not amazing, not spectacular, but he's there. He's doing fine. I do think he's better than Qiqi, to be honest, especially for newer players or mid-game player. I do think he's better than Qiqi, so just because of that, I'm gonna put him above Qiqi, realistically speaking. Okay, his DPS potential can even outrank Keqing, but the fact that Razor is too selfish as a carry, and when you're playing Razor, he pretty much steals all the spotlight. You really have very little space to do pairings with him. So Razor is like, I would say, a low A tier, just because he limits the types of teams that you can build when he's on your team. So in a way, he's kind of restricting. Okay? Rosaria is one of those other units that's really good. As an applicator, Rosaria she's top tier, okay? Cryo units are some of the best characters in the game. They're the centerpiece to a lot of the best reactions in the game. With Cryo, you can open doors to a lot of the best synergies. You got Freeze, Melt, Superconduct, and that's pretty much already top 3. Having a good Cryo applicator in the game is going to be good. I would highly suggest people to pick up Rosaria if she is available. Nudge, nudge. I think she currently is available. She is. Okay. So you see, she's currently available. So really good unit. I do urge people to at least pick up a couple cryo units in the game. So yeah, I'm going to keep it like this. Now we can move into Sucrose. She's really up there when it comes to enabling the rest of your team. Okay. I want to put her mid to higher A tier now, all right? How should we put this? Sucrose, I think a lot of people are confused when it comes to elemental mastery and how it works. Sucrose pretty much takes something that's already very strong, or takes something that's mediocre and moves them up a tier. She makes the strong stronger, and she takes the weak and makes them strong. I do think when it comes to potential pairings is that Sucrose can pair with a lot of units in the game, and same story with Kazuha. She offers up capabilities for teams that otherwise wouldn't even work. miHoYo's trying to push Anemo characters in this direction, and with current swirl buffs and changes, really good. Okay? Yeah. Okay, like that. Another S tier unit currently is Venti. He pretty much facilitates any team. Almost any team. I used to say he kind of struggles a little bit with bosses, but with the recent swirl changes, that has completely gone out the window. His DPS ticking is completely insane. There's nothing he doesn't do anymore. Venti is definitely one of these units that if his banner does make another rerun, or maybe if we're lucky and we get a choice in the anniversary for Genshin Impact, he's definitely one of those units you should really try to get at least one copy of because it's just too good. Xianling, mid A tier. Xianling, a lot of people think of her as damage, but she's really an applicator. She's currently one of the only consistent pyro applicators in the game. She's really high up on the tier list. I would even put her like higher, like maybe like that, just because there's no alternative. Listen, there is no alternative to what Xianling currently does. There's nobody who does that much pyro application, and what can I say? People just don't give her a chance as well because she's free. She's a free unit. Suffers the same fate as Kaeya. Okay, moving on to Xiao. Okay, Xiao is not better than Kazuha in my humblest opinion. Xiao is just a hyper carry. He serves one purpose. You can't really play him as a support DPS. You can't play him as a support. He is just a carry through and through. Okay, that's one of the reasons why he cannot be in the S tier. Just being a good DPS really isn't enough to crest you into the S tier, especially if you don't have access to vaporize and melt. That's for DPS, it's that simple, right? For supports, we look at other criteria, but for DPS, it's that simple. Xingqiu, I don't think he's S tier. Listen, chat, I'm sorry, I don't think he's S tier. He does one job really well. Yes, his support DPS capability is next to none. Probably the best in the game. I see chat really wants him to be S tier. Okay, we'll revisit all this in the end. We're gonna have to shift some people around into B tier and C tier. Don't worry, we're gonna come back. We will talk about this later. We're gonna finish the rest of the units. We're almost done here. Xinyan is she is better than Chongyun just because she does have a shield in her kit. She has some levels of pyro application, and for people who are interested in playing her, she has physical DPS capability, but at the same time, that's also her biggest downfall is because she doesn't have an identity. It's really up in the air. What is she trying to do? But however, she peaks at Constellation 2. Unlike Noelle, who peaks at Constellation 6, if you have Xinyan at Constellation 2, she starts to become viable. She starts to become very good. But very good doesn't really cut it when a lot of these characters are superb. All right. Now we have Yanfei. I have said many times before, if you want her to start competing with some of the other pyro DPS units, you need to have her at Constellation 4. Very fun, satisfying to play if you enjoy that 1-2 punch kind of play style. But just because the pyro DPS category is so competitive and she doesn't really do pyro application like Xianling, so she's actually pretty low in my opinion, somewhere around here. Don't worry, we're gonna finalize this tier list in the end. Right now we're just kind of rough ins. We're roughing in characters. Maybe positions are gonna change. Okay. What can I say? I used to have Zhongli always above Venti. Mihoyo kind of plugged up Venti's biggest weakness, and which was dealing with bosses, dealing with single target units. But now they plugged that. However, I do think Zhongli, especially for free-to-play players, especially for newer players, I do think Zhongli is just too easy. Like, it's just so easy to get him and use him to full potential. You don't need artifacts for his shield to start shredding the percentage, right? It's a fixed percentage shred for all resistances. You don't need artifacts for that. It's too easy. So yeah, I think it's still a no-brainer. I would even put him above Bennett. It's just he fits in every single team. I think he's currently the best unit in the game. What was Mihoyo thinking? But yeah. Okay, so now I think we have every single character slotted. We can now start shifting things around. Maybe move Qiqi down, Razor down. Okay, Xingqiu S, all right. I think, yes, he's really good. I think he can even double in some teams as a support DPS and even a healer. Damage mitigation as well. And him single-handedly opening doors to certain pyro synergies is also really good. I do want to move Albedo up. I think Albedo is probably around here. Albedo offers something that almost nobody else has. He's pretty much like the only character that does what he does, apart from Xingqiu, right? It's so niche and unique. Overall, I think this will be a solid list. I would even bump her down a little bit. I think Xiao, while he's really good, he's just not flexible enough. Xiao is not flexible enough to sit up at the upper, like, to touch S tier. Kazuha, it's debatable whether Kazuha is above Xiao or below Xiao, but I think Kazuha sits... I mean, this is not a DPS tier list. Like, look at this. Look at S tier. There's 2 DPS units. Everyone else is either a support or a support DPS, okay? I think this is a fair tier list. It's something that gives newer players something to chase after. There's 4 stars in here. Up at the tier list, there's 5 stars, and I think some undervalued units like Xianling definitely deserves more play. Kaeya deserves some love if you don't have a good DPS right now. Build Kaeya. He can carry you until you get some of the better DPS currently mentioned on the list. Okay? So, wow, that was a long video. I think we're gonna have to cut that down quite a bit. Good luck, good luck, James, my editor. Thank you guys for being here. I know I said it in the beginning, we're gonna butt heads a little bit. I mean, we didn't butt heads as much, but yeah, this is how I would recommend people who are starting the game to search for characters. All right, to pull for characters. So that's gonna be it. Thank you all so much, and yeah, thanks chat for being here. Say bye. If you guys forgot we were making a video, say bye. Bye bye. Bye YouTube. Thank you for watching. Peace, peace.